Okay, so get this, you sent over this academic article, and it argues that we need to like completely rethink how we view opportunities as entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And it says it all kind of boils down to stakeholders.
Yeah, it really challenges some of the traditional thinking on opportunities for sure.
Yeah, so the paper we're looking at is called Is There Opportunity Without Stakeholders? A Stakeholder Theory Critique and Development of Opportunity Actualization.
Okay.
It's by Ramoglou, Zyglidopoulos, and Papadopoulou.
Mm-hmm.
It was published this year, so it's really fresh.
Very timely.
We're going to try to like break down how this new way of thinking about stakeholders changes the whole game when it comes to, where we put our energy, resources, time, and yeah, even our passion projects.
It really does make you look at things differently.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get into like stakeholder theory itself,
Yeah.
can we maybe just quickly recap those classic entrepreneurial theories of opportunity,
Sure.
just so we're all starting from the same foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, most entrepreneurial theories fall into one of three camps: discovery, creation, and actualization.
Okay.
And the discovery theory basically says that opportunities are just like out there,
Yeah.
ripe for the picking, just waiting for the right entrepreneur to come along.
So just like finding a golden nugget on the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have the creation theory. And this one says that entrepreneurs don't just find opportunities, they create them. They shape markets, they build demand, and they basically will their vision into existence.
Okay, so that's like the build it and they will come approach.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a little problem with that approach. It assumes that you can just educate consumers into wanting what you're building.
Right.
Like if you just explain it well enough, everyone will magically jump on board.
Yeah, in reality, it's not that easy.
Right.
I mean, think of all those products we've seen that seem like brilliant ideas,
Yeah.
but they just never catch on for whatever reason.
Yeah.
There's got to be more to it than just explaining it better.
Exactly. And that's where that third one comes in,
Okay.
the actualization theory.
Okay.
And this one acknowledges that consumer demand is crucial,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the whole story.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs need to actively shape and mold those opportunities to actually fit the market.
So this is where stakeholders come in.
Yes. Stakeholder theory argues that we've been missing this like vital piece of the puzzle this whole time.
Okay.
All the different groups who have a vested interest in our venture.
So it's not just customers anymore.
Not at all.
Okay.
We're talking employees, suppliers, investors,
Yeah.
local communities, regulators, the media, the list goes on.
Right.
Stakeholder theory recognizes that all these groups have their own agendas and values.
Okay.
And they can either lift you up or bring you down.
So how does this change how we think about opportunities then?
Well, for starters, it makes us realize that some opportunities, even with like massive consumer demand, might be dead on arrival if you have powerful stakeholders working against you.
Yeah.
The article calls this narrowing the opportunity space. Think of it like this. Imagine you have the best ice cream in the world,
Okay.
but you try to open your shop right next door to a school that's super health conscious.
Yeah.
Not a good fit, right?
Yeah, you could have the best product, perfect marketing plan and still fail if you're not thinking about that stakeholder ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly.
So are we saying that entrepreneurship is actually way harder than we thought?
In a way, yes, but it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay.
Because stakeholder theory doesn't just narrow the opportunity space.
Yeah.
It deepens it too.
No, that's intriguing. So how does considering stakeholders actually create more opportunities?
It's about shifting your perspective from just avoiding negative outcomes
Mm-hmm.
to like actively building these positive relationships.
Okay.
Think about iTunes.
Right.
When it first launched, music companies were terrified of digital downloads. They
Yeah.
thought everyone would just steal music for free.
Yeah, they thought it would be the end of the music industry as they knew it.
Exactly.
But Steve Jobs saw a different opportunity there.
Yeah, he realized that people were willing to pay for convenience and a good user experience.
Yeah.
But they also wanted to feel good about their purchases.
Mm-hmm.
He tapped into this value of ethical consumption that the music industry had completely missed.
Yeah, and it paid off big time.
Hugely.
It transformed the industry.
It did.
So by thinking about stakeholders, you're not just mitigating risks.
Right.
You're uncovering hidden potential.
You got it.
So it's like this whole untapped world of win-win situations
Yeah.
where you're creating value for everyone involved and you're unlocking opportunities that wouldn't have existed otherwise.
Precisely.
Okay, so this all makes sense in theory, but how do we actually put this into practice? I mean,
Yeah.
how do we identify our key stakeholders and figure out how to engage with them effectively?
That's where strategic opportunity thinking comes in.
Strategic opportunity thinking.
Yeah. Or SOT for short.
So SOT, strategic opportunity thinking. Is
Yeah.
that like some top secret entrepreneurial code we're about to crack?
It's more like a practical framework
Okay.
for blending like that lean startup methodology with stakeholder awareness.
Okay.
So it helps you ask the right questions at the right time. So you're not just building something people want,
Yeah.
but something that can actually thrive in the real world,
Yeah.
within its stakeholder ecosystem.
Okay, so less about the secret code and more about just making sure we're not building something in a vacuum,
Right.
completely oblivious to all the people and forces that can impact
That's
us.
exactly.
I like that.
And the article lays out this really useful framework for this called PE.
PEE.
Yeah, it stands for Power, Interest, Belief Systems, and Empathy.
Okay, let's break that down. So P for power.
Yeah.
What kind of power are we talking about here?
It's about understanding which stakeholders have the power to really impact your venture, for better or worse.
Okay.
Who could block your permits, boycott your products, or damage your reputation.
So it's not just identifying the big players,
Right.
but figuring out how their power actually works and whether you can influence it.
Exactly. And that leads us to I for interest.
Okay.
You need to figure out if each stakeholder's interest align with your venture or if they see it as a threat.
Okay.
And if there's a conflict, can you find some common ground or do you need to rethink your whole approach?
So it's like this strategic game of figuring out who stands to win or lose, and then trying to align those interests or pivot in a direction that's more compatible.
Yeah, you're getting it.
Yeah.
Now think about B for belief systems.
Okay, belief systems.
This one can be tricky because it's about understanding the values and principles that drive your stakeholders' decisions.
Yeah, that feels a lot harder to pinpoint than just like someone's financial interest in a project or something.
It is, but it's crucial. You need to ask yourself, are your venture's actions and values compatible with the beliefs of your key stakeholders?
Okay.
If not, can you reframe your message, find a way to bridge that gap? Or are those beliefs so deeply rooted that it's just not a good fit no matter what you do?
So even if you have an amazing product, you might be facing an uphill battle if you're fundamentally at odds with the beliefs of a powerful stakeholder group.
Right, and that's where empathy comes in.
Okay.
The E in PIB.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just intellectually understand someone's beliefs.
Yeah.
You need to try to see the world from their point of view.
Okay.
What are their hopes and fears? What do they value most?
So empathy helps you anticipate those roadblocks and find creative solutions that address the concerns of your stakeholders.
Yeah.
So it's not just about forcing your vision on the world.
Right.
It's about finding a path that works for everyone.
Exactly.
Okay. I love this PI framework. It's really helpful for breaking things down. But I'm curious, what does it actually look like to put this into practice?
Yeah.
Let's say I've identified my key stakeholders,
Okay.
figured out their interests, their beliefs, all that.
Yeah.
How do I actually engage with them in a way that's meaningful?
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that.
Yeah.
It really depends on the context, the nature of your venture, and the relationships you already have.
So it's not just about sending out a mass email
Right.
or holding a generic town hall meeting.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Effective stakeholder engagement is about building those genuine relationships.
Okay.
It's about truly listening to people's concerns and finding ways to create value for everyone involved.
Can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Sure. Let's say you're building a tech startup
Okay.
and you realize that local community groups are key stakeholders.
Okay.
Maybe they're concerned about the impact your business might have on traffic or noise levels or property values in the neighborhood.
That's a very real concern for a lot of communities dealing with rapid growth.
It is. And the worst thing you can do is just ignore those concerns or try to steamroll over them.
Right, because that just breeds resentment and distrust.
Exactly. Instead, you can engage with those community groups proactively.
Okay.
Hold meetings, listen to their feedback, incorporate their suggestions into your plans, and find ways to mitigate any negative impacts your business might have.
So being transparent, responsive, and showing a willingness to collaborate.
Exactly. That kind of proactive engagement can make a world of difference in building trust and goodwill.
Yeah.
And those relationships, in turn, can become your greatest assets.
Okay, so that's an example with the local community. What about engaging with your employees?
That's another crucial piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Let's say you're trying to implement a major change within your company,
Okay.
a new policy, a shift in strategy, something like that, and you need your employees to be on board.
Which is easier said than done sometimes.
Right. So instead of just dictating the changes from the top down,
Yeah.
you can involve your employees in the decision-making process.
Okay.
Ask for their input, address their concerns, and explain the reasoning behind the changes.
Because when people feel like they're part of the process, they're much more likely to embrace the outcome,
Yeah.
even if it's not exactly what they initially envisioned.
Exactly. It fosters a sense of ownership, and it taps into the collective wisdom and experience of your team.
Yeah.
And that can lead to much better outcomes for everyone.
Okay, so we talked about community groups, we talked about employees. I imagine this same principle applies to pretty much any stakeholder group.
Absolutely.
Suppliers, investors, anyone who has a stake in your venture.
It's all about building those relationships based on mutual respect, open communication, and a shared commitment to creating value.
This is really starting to paint a different picture of what it means to be a successful entrepreneur. It's not just about having a brilliant idea and then relentlessly pursuing it no matter the cost.
It's about recognizing that you're not operating in a vacuum. You're part of this complex ecosystem,
Yeah.
and your success depends on your ability to navigate that ecosystem effectively, to build relationships, create value for others, and find those win-win solutions.
And in a world that's becoming increasingly interconnected and complex, this stakeholder-centric approach feels more relevant than ever.
I completely agree.
So let's do a quick recap of what we've covered so far. We talked about how stakeholder theory narrows and deepens the opportunity space, making entrepreneurship both more challenging and more rewarding.
Yeah.
We explored that Pi-B framework as a practical tool for understanding and engaging with stakeholders.
And we discussed how a stakeholder-centric approach can unlock these new levels of success by fostering trust, collaboration, and shared value creation.
It's about building ventures that are not only profitable, but also ethical, sustainable, and contribute positively to the world around them.
Exactly. And the exciting thing is this approach isn't just some feel-good philosophy. It's a strategic framework for creating long-term value and sustainable success. And to wrap things up, we'll dive into some final thoughts and takeaways after a quick break.
Right, so we're back, and I gotta say, this whole conversation about stakeholder theory has really gotten me thinking.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see opportunities everywhere, but it's not just like opportunities for profit. It's opportunities to actually like make a real difference.
That's the beauty of this approach. It kind of expands your definition of success.
Yeah.
It's not just about the bottom line anymore. It's about creating value for everyone involved.
You mentioned something earlier that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
This idea that like the more society values fairness and ethical behavior,
Right.
the more important this whole stakeholder-centric view becomes.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
As consumers become more conscious of where they spend their money, and employees demand more from their employers,
Yeah.
the businesses that have already embraced these values will have a huge advantage.
So it's not just about avoiding PR disasters or legal battles anymore.
Right.
It's about actively positioning yourself for success in a world where stakeholders have more power and influence than ever before.
Precisely. And this is why I think this article is so timely and relevant.
Yeah.
It's not just an intellectual exercise.
Right.
It's a practical roadmap for entrepreneurs who want to build ventures that are both profitable and purpose-driven.
So to wrap things up, let's distill this down to some key takeaways for our listener.
Okay.
First and foremost, remember that opportunities are not just out there waiting to be discovered. They're shaped by this complex interplay of stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And never underestimate the power of stakeholders to make or break your venture.
Yeah.
Even with a killer product and tons of consumer demand, if you ignore the needs and concerns of your stakeholders, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Engage with them. Use that Pi-B framework.
Yes.
Power, interest, belief systems, empathy, ask the right questions, build genuine relationships, find ways to create value for everyone involved.
And remember, building a stakeholder-centric venture isn't just about damage control.
Right.
It's about unlocking this whole new level of success.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into the power of trust, collaboration, and shared value creation.
So as you go out there and build your ventures,
Ah.
ask yourself what unseen opportunities or threats are hiding in plain sight. How can you leverage the power of stakeholder theory to build something truly remarkable? Something that not only generates profits, but also makes a positive impact on the world.
Well said.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive into stakeholder theory. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
We encourage you to explore these ideas further and see how they can shape your own entrepreneurial journey.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.